The commercial airliner's cabin hummed with the muted conversations of first-class passengers, crystal glasses clinking against polished armrests as the Boeing 777 cruised at 37,000 feet above the Nevada desert. In row 11, seat A, Evangeline Raven Vasquez adjusted her Hermes scarf and gazed through the oval window at the endless expanse of amber wasteland below. Her fingers, adorned with a simple platinum band that had cost more than most people's cars, drummed silently against her leather briefcase, a nervous habit she'd never quite shaken from her military days. The irony wasn't lost on her. 5 years ago, she'd been Captain Vasquez, call sign Raven, flying A-10 Thunderbolts through the same Nevada airspace, her aircraft loaded with enough ordnance to level city blocks. Now she was Evangeline Vasquez-Chen, CEO of Apex Defense Solutions, her company's contracts worth more than the GDP of small nations. The transformation should have felt complete, but something about the desert's unchanging face always pulled her back to memories of hydraulic fluid, cordite, and the weight of 30-millimeter rounds. The flight attendant approached with practiced elegance. "Mrs. Vasquez-Chen, we'll be beginning our descent into Los Angeles in approximately 40 minutes. Would you care for another champagne?" Evangeline nodded absently, her attention fixed on a peculiar sight below, a convoy of military vehicles moving across the desert in perfect formation, their dust trails creating geometric patterns against the bronze landscape. Her satellite phone buzzed. Marcus, her chief of staff, appeared on the encrypted video feed, his usually composed demeanor cracked with urgency. "Evangeline, we have a situation. The Pentagon's been trying to reach you for the past hour. Something about Operation Desert Shield. They need immediate consultation on close air support protocols." His voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. "They specifically requested you, not the company. You." Through the aircraft's intercom, the pilot's voice crackled with sudden tension. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been instructed by air traffic control to enter a holding pattern. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." Evangeline's trained ear caught the subtle strain in his tone, the same inflection she'd heard countless times during combat briefings when missions went sideways. Below them, the desert had transformed. What appeared to be training exercises moments before now revealed themselves as something far more serious. Smoke plumes rose from multiple locations, and the geometric precision of the vehicle movements suggested not training but active engagement. Her phone buzzed again, this time an emergency frequency she hadn't heard in 5 years. The static-filled transmission was brief. Any station, this is Broken Arrow 6. We have multiple casualties and are requesting immediate close air support. Grid reference follows." The voice cut out, replaced by the ominous hiss of dead air. Evangeline's champagne remained untouched as she stared at the desert below, watching her past and present collide at 37,000 feet above a battlefield she couldn't yet comprehend. The airline captain's voice returned, more urgent now. "We've been diverted to Nellis Air Force Base for an emergency landing. All passengers please prepare for immediate descent." Through her window, Evangeline spotted them, 4 dark silhouettes streaking across the desert floor, their distinctive twin engines and straight wings unmistakable even from this altitude. A-10 Thunderbolts, call sign unknown, racing toward the smoke columns with the deadly grace she remembered so well. Her reflection in the window seemed to split between two worlds, the billionaire executive in her tailored Armani suit and the combat pilot who had earned her call sign by bringing damaged birds home through hell itself. The satellite phone buzzed incessantly. Pentagon, State Department, her board of directors, all demanding answers she didn't yet have. The aircraft banked sharply, beginning its emergency descent toward Nellis. As they dropped through the cloud layer, the scope of the situation became clear. The Nevada test and training range stretched endlessly below, but this wasn't the controlled environment she remembered from her active duty years. Scattered across the desert floor were the burning hulks of vehicles, both American and foreign, creating a patchwork of destruction that suggested something far beyond routine training exercises. Radio chatter filled the cabin as the pilots coordinated with ground control. Through the static, Evangeline caught fragments, unknown hostile forces, casualties mounting, request immediate tactical air support. The words triggered muscle memory she tried to bury beneath quarterly reports and stockholder meetings. A flight attendant approached, her professional composure barely masking obvious concern. "Mrs. Vasquez-Chen, there's a secure communication waiting for you in the cockpit. They said it's from General Morrison." The name hit like a physical blow. General Patricia Morrison had been her wing commander during her final deployment, the woman who'd signed her discharge papers and recommended her for the Defense Department consulting position that had launched her business empire. As the aircraft touched down on Nelly's runway with a jarring thud, emergency vehicles surrounded them with flashing lights and urgent radio chatter. Through the window, Evangeline watched ground crews directing passengers toward a secured terminal while military personnel cordoned off the area. The scene felt surreal, her civilian world colliding with military precision in a way she'd never anticipated during her transition to private sector success. Her phone displayed 17 missed calls from the Pentagon, 12 from her company's board, and one text message from an unknown number. "Raven, we need you. The sky remembers." The message was unsigned, but she recognized the phrasing immediately. It was the motto of her old squadron, the 355th Fighter Squadron, the Sky Crusaders. Someone from her past was calling her home. The aircraft's engines wound down as Evangeline gathered her belongings, her mind racing through possibilities and implications. Whatever was happening in the desert below, it had reached high enough into the chain of command to divert commercial aircraft and mobilize tactical air support. More importantly, someone believed she was essential to resolving it. The aircraft door opened with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the controlled chaos of a military base on high alert. Ground crews moved with practiced efficiency, while armed security personnel maintained perimeter control. The dry Nevada air carried the familiar scents of jet fuel and desert sage, memories flooding back despite her years in corporate boardrooms. A young airman approached with crisp professionalism. "Mrs. Vasquez-Chen, I'm Staff Sergeant Williams. General Morrison is waiting for you in the Tactical Operations Center. If you'll please follow me, ma'am." His deference carried the subtle undertones of respect reserved for former military personnel, recognition she'd almost forgotten after years of civilian authority. As they walked across the tarmac, Evangeline caught sight of the flight line, rows of A-10 Thunderbolts in various stages of preparation, ground crews loading ordnance with the urgent efficiency that suggested imminent deployment. The distinctive whine of turbofan engines spooling up filled the air, and for a moment, she was Captain Vasquez again, running her pre-flight checklist while dawn broke over Afghanistan's mountains. The Tactical Operations Center buzzed with controlled intensity. Multiple screens displayed real-time satellite imagery, radio frequencies crackled with updates from field units, and officers moved between workstations with purposeful determination. At the center of it all stood General Morrison, her silver hair pulled back in the same severe bun Evangeline remembered, her uniform pressed to perfection despite the obvious stress of command. "Raven," the general's greeting carried 5 years of history in a single word. "Thank you for coming." Morrison's handshake was firm, professional, but her eyes held something Evangeline had never seen during their previous interactions: uncertainty. "We have a situation that requires your specific expertise. What I'm about to show you is classified at the highest levels." Morrison led her to a secure briefing room where wall-mounted screens displayed tactical overlays of the Nevada desert. Red icons marked enemy positions while blue markers indicated friendly forces, a digital representation of the battlefield she'd glimpsed from the aircraft window. The pattern was unmistakably defensive. American forces surrounded, taking casualties, requesting support. 6 hours ago, An unidentified military force launched a coordinated attack on our training facilities, Morrison began, her voice carrying the weight of command responsibility. Initial intelligence suggests foreign special operations, possibly state-sponsored, but their equipment and tactics don't match any known doctrine. They've disabled our communications array and established anti-aircraft positions that have already downed 2 helicopters. Morrison activated a tactical display showing enemy positions marked in red across the desert landscape. Our ground forces are trapped in defensive positions, taking casualties and running low on ammunition. Standard protocol would be to call in airstrikes, but these hostiles have sophisticated surface-to-air missile systems, SA-22s and possibly newer variants. We've lost 2 aircraft attempting conventional close air support missions. Evangeline studied the tactical overlay, her business executive persona giving way to the analytical mind that had kept her alive through 3 combat deployments. The enemy positions formed a classic anti-access pattern, designed to deny friendly forces freedom of movement while maintaining defensive superiority. It was textbook asymmetric warfare, executed with precision that suggested professional military planning. "Why me?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Morrison's expression confirmed her suspicion. "Because you're the only pilot we know who successfully penetrated similar defenses during Operation Sandstorm in 2019, Morrison replied. "Your tactics were unconventional, borderline insubordinate, but they worked. You brought your entire flight home when conventional doctrine would have resulted in catastrophic losses. We need that kind of thinking now." The room fell silent except for the distant rumble of aircraft engines and radio chatter from the operations center. Evangeline felt the weight of decision settling on her shoulders. Return to the cockpit after 5 years of civilian life. Risk everything she'd built for a mission that might not even be survivable, or watch American forces take casualties while she remained safely in the briefing room. Morrison activated another display showing personnel files of the trapped ground forces. Young faces stared back from official photographs. Soldiers, Marines, airmen who'd never heard of Captain Evangeline Vasquez, but whose lives now depended on whether Raven could remember how to fly through hell and bring everyone home. "I haven't flown combat missions in 5 years, Evangeline said, though her fingers were already unconsciously running through pre-flight mental checklists. "My certifications, my flight status." "Emergency reactivation," Morrison interrupted. "Full authority from the Secretary of Defense. Your A-10 is being prepped now. Tail number 810965, the same bird you flew during your final deployment. Chief Master Sergeant Rodriguez specifically requested it be assigned to you if you accepted the mission." Rodriguez. The name brought back memories of pre-dawn briefings, post-mission debriefs, and the Master Sergeant's uncanny ability to keep aircraft flying despite impossible maintenance challenges. If Rodriguez was still working the flight line, still remembered her specific aircraft preferences, then this mission carried personal stakes beyond military necessity. Through the briefing room's reinforced windows, she could see the flight line where ground crews were completing combat load preparations on multiple A-10s. Even at this distance, she recognized the aircraft's distinctive configuration: twin turbofan engines mounted high and aft, titanium-armored cockpit, massive GAU-8 cannon protruding from the nose like a mechanical predator's fang. "What's the tactical situation on the ground?" she asked, her voice carrying the clipped professionalism that had defined her military career. Morrison's relief was almost palpable as she realized Evangeline was engaging with the mission parameters rather than declining participation. "Broken Arrow 6 is 1st Lieutenant Marcus Chen, 3rd Infantry Regiment, trapped with approximately 40 personnel in a defensive perimeter about 15 kilometers southwest of here," Morrison explained, highlighting positions on the tactical display. "They've been under sustained fire for 3 hours. Ammunition is running low, casualties mounting, and enemy forces are preparing for a final assault. Evangeline studied the tactical overlay with growing concern. The enemy positions formed multiple overlapping fields of fire, creating kill zones that would make traditional close air support extremely hazardous. Surface-to-air missile sites were positioned to deny approach routes while maintaining coverage over the trapped friendly forces. Time frame, she asked. Chen's last transmission estimated they could hold their position for maybe 2 more hours before being overrun, Morrison replied. Weather is clear, visibility unlimited, but approaching sunset will favor the attackers. We need to move now. Evangeline looked at the tactical display one final time, her mind automatically calculating approach angles, target priorities, and escape routes. The mission was dangerous, potentially suicidal, but achievable with proper planning and execution. More importantly, 40 American lives hung in the balance while she debated risk versus responsibility. I'll need complete tactical intelligence on enemy positions, updated weather reports, and coordination with any other friendly assets in the area, she said, her decision made. And I'll need to speak with Chief Rodriguez about aircraft configuration. If I'm flying into that kind of defensive array, every system needs to be perfect. Morrison nodded with visible relief. Rodriguez is waiting for you on the flight line. Your gear is being prepared, and intelligence will have updated target packages ready within the hour. She paused, her expression softening slightly. Raven, I know this isn't easy. Walking away from civilian success to fly back into combat. 40 lives, General, Evangeline interrupted. That's not a difficult calculation. She stood, straightening her business suit jacket in a gesture that somehow managed to convey both civilian authority and military bearing. I'll need to make some calls, arrange for my company's operations to continue in my absence, but the mission takes priority. As they walked back through the operations center, Evangeline felt the transformation beginning. 5 years of corporate boardrooms and stockholder meetings were fading, replaced by the focused intensity she'd honed through countless combat missions. Her mind was already running through weapons employment procedures, threat assessment protocols, and emergency procedures she'd hoped never to need again. The flight line stretched before them, filled with the controlled chaos of combat preparation. Ground crews moved between aircraft with practiced efficiency, while pilots conducted pre-flight inspections and briefed mission parameters. The distinctive sound of turbofan engines spooling up filled the air as A-10s prepared for departure. Chief Master Sergeant Rodriguez approached with the bearing that marked career military personnel. Professional, competent, utterly unflappable despite the obvious stress of combat operations. His uniform carried the wear marks of someone who worked directly with aircraft rather than pushing papers, and his eyes held the sharp intelligence that separated exceptional maintainers from merely competent ones. "Captain," he said, using her former rank with natural ease. "Good to see you again, ma'am. Your bird is ready for combat operations. Full ordnance load, systems checked twice, fuel topped off. Just like old times." His smile carried genuine warmth despite the circumstances. Evangeline followed Rodriguez toward the aircraft that would carry her back into combat after 5 years of civilian life. Tail number 810965 sat on the tarmac like a mechanical predator, its GAU-8 cannon and wing-mounted ordnance creating an unmistakably lethal silhouette against the Nevada sunset. This was the aircraft that had carried her through her final deployment, survived multiple combat missions, and brought her home when other pilots hadn't been as fortunate. "How's she been treating you, Chief?" Evangeline asked, running her hand along the aircraft's armored flank with the familiarity of someone renewing acquaintance with an old friend. "Like a faithful dog, ma'am," Rodriguez replied. "Flew training missions until last month, but she's been properly maintained. All systems green, weapons systems calibrated, and I personally supervise the combat load. She'll bring you home." His confidence was absolute, the kind of professional assurance that came from decades of keeping aircraft and pilots alive. Evangeline conducted her pre-flight inspection with the methodical precision that had defined her military career. Every access panel, every ordnance connection, every system indicator received careful scrutiny. The familiar ritual helped settle her mind, transforming nervous energy into focused preparation for the mission ahead. The aircraft's cockpit welcomed her like a comfortable chair, every switch and display exactly where muscle memory expected. 5 years of civilian life hadn't erased the spatial relationships that had kept her alive during combat operations. Her hands moved across the instrument panel with practiced efficiency, conducting pre-start checks while her mind reviewed tactical procedures. Engine start was routine but emotionally charged, the turbofan engines spooling up with their distinctive whine, while systems came online in sequence. Radio check with ground control, taxi clearance, final weapons checks, all the procedural steps that transformed a static machine into a combat-ready weapons system. Nellie's ground, Raven 1 requesting taxi clearance for immediate departure, she transmitted, using her old call sign with natural ease. The response was immediate. Raven 1, Nellie's ground, cleared to taxi runway 03 right, contact tower on 243.75. Good hunting. The taxi to runway position gave her time for final mental preparation. Intelligence updates continued streaming through her helmet display, enemy positions, friendly locations, weather updates, and most importantly, the deteriorating situation facing Broken Arrow 6. Lieutenant Chen's last transmission reported casualties mounting and ammunition running critically low. Tower clearance came with unusual efficiency. Raven 1, cleared for takeoff, contact departure on 275.8. Godspeed. The controller's informal blessing carried weight beyond standard phraseology, recognition that this mission carried stakes beyond routine training operations. Takeoff was smooth, powerful, familiar, the A-10's engines providing steady thrust as the aircraft lifted off Nevada's runway into the clear desert air. Below, the tactical situation became visible as smoke columns marked friendly and enemy positions across the sandy landscape. From altitude, the battle appeared almost academic, but Evangeline knew that clinical distance would disappear rapidly once she entered the engagement zone. Raven 1, contact Magic on secure frequency 291.5 for tactical coordination. Departure control transmitted. Magic was the airborne command and control asset coordinating the rescue effort, probably an E-3 AWACS aircraft orbiting safely above missile engagement altitude. Magic, Raven 1 checking in, Angels 15, requesting tactical update on Broken Arrow 6. Evangeline transmitted as she climbed toward her operational altitude. The response carried the controlled tension of personnel managing a deteriorating situation. Raven 1, Magic copies. Broken Arrow 6 reports critical ammunition shortage, multiple casualties, estimated 20 minutes before being overrun. Enemy positions marked by smoke. Friendlies are in defensive perimeter approximately 500 meters southwest of the smoke markers. Be advised, enemy has active SA-22 and possibly SA-24 surface-to-air missiles. 2 previous close air support attempts resulted in aircraft losses. Evangeline absorbed the tactical information while studying her helmet-mounted display. The enemy positions formed an almost perfect anti-access network, designed to deny friendly aircraft the opportunity for effective close air support. It was sophisticated, professional, and almost certainly deadly for any pilot attempting conventional attack profiles. Magic, Raven 1 understands enemy air defense threat. Request permission to prosecute targets using non-standard attack geometry. Her request was deliberately vague, but anyone familiar with her service record would understand the implication. She was planning to use the same unconventional tactics that had defined her reputation during active duty, dangerous, effective, and definitely not found in standard doctrine. Raven 1, Magic copies. You're cleared hot on all enemy positions marked in red on your display. Friendlies are marked blue, approximately 500 meters southwest of target area. Use your judgment on attack profiles, but be aware that Broken Arrow 6 has limited time remaining. Evangeline acknowledged the clearance while conducting her final systems checks. Weapons armed, countermeasures loaded, communication frequencies set for both air-to-air and ground-to-ground coordination. Everything was as ready as 5 years of civilian life, and 30 minutes of preparation could make it. The target area appeared on her horizon as a collection of smoke columns and dust clouds marking active combat. From her current altitude and distance, it looked almost peaceful, just disturbed earth and atmospheric haze against the Nevada desert's endless expanse. That illusion would disappear rapidly once she began her attack run. Broken Arrow 6, Raven 1 inbound your position for close air support, she transmitted on the ground force frequency. Request immediate tactical update on enemy positions and friendly locations. I have visual on your smoke markers. The response came through static and background noise that suggested someone transmitting while under direct fire. Raven 1, Broken Arrow 6, thank God you're here. Enemy positions are north and east of our perimeter, approximately 300 meters out. We're running out of ammunition and have multiple casualties requiring immediate evacuation. Please be advised, they have serious anti-aircraft capability. We've watched them engage previous air support. Lieutenant Chen's voice carried the strain of someone commanding ground forces under extreme pressure, but his tactical report was professional and precise. Evangeline made final adjustments to her attack heading while studying the target area through her aircraft's targeting systems. The surface-to-air missile sites were clearly visible now, sophisticated installations with multiple launching systems and radar arrays designed to create overlapping fields of fire. Approaching through conventional attack profiles would almost certainly result in aircraft loss, but the alternatives were limited and dangerous. She banked into her initial attack run, descending toward engagement altitude while maintaining maximum distance from known missile sites. Her weapons systems indicated ready status across all ordnance types, cannon, missiles, and bombs available for immediate employment against ground targets. Raven 1 beginning attack run, she transmitted to Magic while simultaneously providing tactical updates to Broken Arrow 6. Friendlies stay low and mark your positions with visible signals if possible. This is going to get loud. The first surface-to-air missile launch was visible as a bright streak against the desert floor, followed immediately by her aircraft's threat warning systems, indicating multiple radar locks. Evangeline initiated defensive maneuvers while maintaining attack geometry, a complex balance between avoiding incoming threats and positioning for effective weapons employment. Her first cannon burst walked across enemy positions with devastating effect. The GAU-8's 30mm rounds chewed through defensive positions, while her aircraft's momentum carried her past the immediate threat zone. Behind her, secondary explosions marked successful target engagement as ammunition and fuel supplies ignited. Good hits, Raven 1, came Chen's excited transmission. Enemy fire on our position has decreased significantly. Can you make another pass on the eastern positions? Evangeline was already maneuvering for her second attack run, using terrain masking and defensive maneuvers to avoid the remaining surface-to-air threats. Her aircraft responded with the familiar precision that had kept her alive during previous combat deployments, each control input producing exact flight path adjustments. The second pass focused on the eastern enemy positions that posed the greatest threat to friendly forces. Missile strikes eliminated hardened positions, while cannon fire suppressed personnel movement. Evangeline's tactical display showed friendly forces beginning to advance from their defensive perimeter, taking advantage of reduced enemy pressure. Magic, Raven 1, enemy defensive positions significantly degraded, she reported while climbing away from the target area. Broken Arrow 6 reports decreased incoming fire and is preparing wounded for evacuation. Request medical helicopter support for casualty extraction. Raven 1, Magic copies successful target engagement. Medical helicopter is inbound. Estimated arrival in 15 minutes. Outstanding work out there. The controller's professional tone carried genuine appreciation for effective mission execution under dangerous circumstances. Evangeline continued orbiting the target area while providing overwatch for friendly forces and incoming medical support. Her fuel state allowed approximately 30 more minutes of station time, sufficient to ensure ground force security until additional assets arrived. The medical helicopter's arrival marked the mission's transition from combat operations to casualty evacuation. Evangeline provided security overwatch while wounded personnel were loaded aboard the aircraft for transport to medical facilities. Her role was shifting from active combat to protective presence, ensuring no remaining enemy forces could interfere with the rescue operation. Broken Arrow 6, casualties are secure and medical helicopter is departing, she transmitted to Chen. What's your status for extraction of remaining personnel? The lieutenant's response indicated his forces were mobile and prepared for extraction once transportation arrived. Additional helicopters appeared on the horizon, CH-47, Chinooks capable of extracting the entire ground force in a single lift. Evangeline maintained her orbit, watching for any signs of enemy activity while the extraction proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Raven 1, all personnel extracted successfully, Magic transmitted as the helicopters departed the target area. You're cleared to return to base when ready. Exceptional work out there, 40 lives saved because of your actions. The controller's informal praise carried weight beyond official recognition. The flight back to Nellie's provided time for reflection on what had just occurred. Evangeline had successfully returned to combat operations after 5 years of civilian life, executed a dangerous mission against sophisticated threats, and brought everyone home alive. Her hands were steady on the controls, her mind clear, her confidence unshaken by the transition from boardroom to cockpit. Landing was routine but emotionally significant, the successful conclusion of a mission that had required her to set aside everything she'd built during civilian life. As the aircraft rolled to a stop on Nellie's ramp, she could see ground crews and personnel waiting to welcome her return. Chief Rodriguez approached with obvious satisfaction as she shut down the engines and completed post-flight checks. "How'd she treat you, Captain?" he asked with genuine concern for both pilot and aircraft. "Like coming home, Chief," Evangeline replied, removing her helmet and feeling the Nevada air on her face. "She performed flawlessly. 40 people are alive because you kept this bird ready for combat." Her praise was heartfelt, recognition that successful missions depended on entire teams, not individual heroics. General Morrison waited near the aircraft with obvious relief. "Broken Arrow 6 sends their thanks," she said as Evangeline climbed down from the cockpit. "Lieutenant Chen specifically asked me to tell you that his people know they owe their lives to Raven's flying." The general's formal demeanor carried genuine gratitude for mission success. As they walked back toward the operations center, Morrison continued, "I know this wasn't an easy decision, leaving your company, returning to combat operations. The Pentagon is grateful, and there will certainly be official recognition for what you accomplished today." Evangeline paused, looking back at the A-10 that had carried her through another successful mission. "General, some things are more important than quarterly profits. Those 40 people have families, futures, dreams that matter more than my stock portfolio. I'm glad I could help bring them home." The debriefing room filled with personnel wanting details of the mission, tactical lessons learned, and assessment of enemy capabilities. Evangeline provided thorough professional analysis while her mind processed the emotional reality of returning to combat after years of civilian success. Her satellite phone buzzed with messages from her corporate staff, board members, and business partners who'd heard about her sudden military reactivation. The civilian world she'd built was demanding attention, requiring explanations and reassurances that her company would continue functioning despite her absence. "General," she said during a brief break in the debriefing, "I need to address some business concerns, make sure my people understand the situation. But I want you to know, if this kind of mission comes up again, if American lives are at stake, Don Raven is still available for active duty." Morrison's smile carried genuine warmth. "I hoped you'd say that, Raven. Your country may need that kind of commitment again." The general's informal use of her call sign confirmed that Evangeline had successfully transitioned back to military culture despite years of civilian leadership. The drive back to the commercial terminal provided time to mentally shift between worlds, military and civilian, combat pilot and business executive, Captain Vasquez and Evangeline Chen. Her phone continued buzzing with corporate concerns while her mind replayed tactical details from the mission. Her corporate jet waited on the civilian side of Nellie's, its luxurious interior a stark contrast to the A-10's Spartan cockpit. The flight crew welcomed her aboard with obvious curiosity about her military activities, though professional discretion prevented direct questions about classified operations. "Los Angeles, Mrs. Chen," the pilot asked as she settled into her preferred seat. The return to civilian formality felt awkward after hours of military protocol, but she nodded confirmation while reviewing messages from her staff. As the jet climbed toward cruising altitude, Evangeline looked down at the Nevada desert where smoke columns still marked the day's battlefield. Somewhere below, medical personnel were treating wounded soldiers, while investigators analyzed enemy equipment and tactics. Her brief return to military service was ending, but its impact would continue rippling through official reports and personal memories. Her phone display showed 43 missed calls from corporate staff, 12 from board members, and 6 from major clients concerned about her sudden absence from scheduled meetings. The civilian world demanded attention, required explanations, needed assurance that their investments and partnerships remained secure despite her temporary military activation. Marcus appeared on her encrypted video link with obvious concern. "Evangeline, thank God you're safe. The news is reporting military action in Nevada, and when you disappeared without explanation, everyone assumed the worst. Are you injured? What exactly happened out there?" "I'm fine, Marcus," she replied, her voice carrying the calm confidence that had defined her leadership style. "There was a military situation that required my specific expertise. American lives were at stake, and I was qualified to help. The mission was successful, everyone is safe, and I'm returning to normal operations immediately." Marcus's relief was obvious, but his business training generated immediate concerns. The board is panicking about liability exposure, insurance implications, and potential security risks to company operations. Senator Williams called personally to ask if our defense contracts were compromised by your military activities. Evangeline listened to his concerns while watching the desert landscape give way to urban sprawl approaching Los Angeles. The civilian world's focus on legal liability and financial risk seemed almost surreal after spending the day saving lives in combat, but she recognized the legitimate business concerns that required her attention. "Schedule a board meeting for tomorrow morning," she instructed. "Full explanation of today's events, security implications, and operational continuity plans. Also, prepare a press release announcing that Apex Defense Solutions remains fully committed to all existing contracts and client relationships. My temporary military service actually enhances our company's credibility in defense consulting." The jet's descent into Los Angeles International Airport marked her return to civilian leadership responsibilities. Her Rolls-Royce waited on the tarmac with her personal assistant and security detail. the kind of executive treatment that had become routine during her business success, but felt excessive after a day in military uniform. Corporate headquarters occupied 3 floors of a Century City high-rise, its glass walls and modern furniture a stark contrast to the functional simplicity of military facilities. Her executive assistant provided updates on missed meetings, postponed conference calls, and rescheduled appointments that would require her attention over the coming days. The boardroom filled with concerned executives as Evangeline prepared to address questions about her sudden military activation. These were intelligent, successful people who'd helped build Apex Defense Solutions into a major government contractor. But their understanding of military operations was largely theoretical rather than experiential. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, settling into her position at the head of the conference table. "Today, I had the opportunity to serve my country in a military capacity, providing close air support for American forces under enemy fire. 40 soldiers, Marines, and airmen are alive tonight because of successful mission execution. Our company's reputation and capabilities were enhanced by demonstrating that our expertise extends beyond consulting to actual combat operations." Board member questions focused on legal exposure, insurance implications, and potential security risks to company operations. Evangeline addressed each concern with patient professionalism, while emphasizing that her military service actually strengthened their defense contracting credentials. "Our clients hire us because we understand military operations at the deepest level," she explained. "Today's mission demonstrates that understanding is current, practical, and tested under real-world conditions. No consulting firm can claim that level of authentic expertise." The meeting continued for 2 hours, covering operational continuity plans, security protocols, and communication strategies for managing public disclosure of her military activities. By its conclusion, the board had transitioned from concern to grudging admiration for her dual competencies in business leadership and combat operations. Her corner office provided a panoramic view of Los Angeles while she worked through accumulated correspondence and delayed decisions. The city sprawled endlessly below, millions of people pursuing civilian dreams that felt simultaneously important and distant after her day in combat. Her personal phone displayed a text message from an unknown number. "Thank you for bringing us home. The boys from Broken Arrow 6 won't forget what Raven did today." The message was unsigned, but Lieutenant Chen's gratitude carried emotional weight that no corporate achievement had ever matched. As evening settled over Los Angeles, Evangeline stood at her office window, watching city lights emerge across the metropolitan landscape. Her reflection in the glass seemed to contain both worlds, the business executive in her Armani suit and the combat pilot who'd spent the afternoon dodging surface-to-air missiles while saving American lives. Her secretary knocked and entered with the final agenda items for the day. "Mrs. Chen, the Pentagon called to schedule a follow-up briefing next week. They mentioned something about potential future missions requiring your expertise. Should I add it to your calendar?" Evangeline nodded without hesitation. "Schedule it, and ensure my availability remains flexible for any urgent military requirements. Some things take priority over quarterly earnings reports." Her secretary's professional acceptance of this guidance confirmed that her staff understood their leader's commitment extended beyond corporate success. The drive home to Malibu provided time for personal reflection on the day's events. Her oceanfront estate represented the pinnacle of civilian achievement, financial success, social status, and personal autonomy earned through years of business leadership. But the satisfaction of mission success, of bringing 40 people home alive, carried emotional weight that no corporate victory had ever matched. Her husband David was waiting with obvious concern and relief. "Eva, when you disappeared today without explanation, then the news reported military action in Nevada. I was terrified something had happened to you. Are you safe? What was so important that you had to drop everything and fly off without telling anyone? She settled beside him on their terrace overlooking the Pacific, the civilian luxury of their home creating sharp contrast with the day's military environment. American soldiers were trapped, taking casualties, about to be overrun by enemy forces, she explained. They needed close air support in a situation where standard tactics would have gotten pilots killed. I was qualified to help, so I helped. David's understanding carried the patience of someone married to a former military officer who occasionally received calls from her past. How many people? He asked, recognizing that numbers mattered in her calculations. 40, she replied simply. 40 people have families tonight because I remembered how to fly through surface-to-air missiles and bring everyone home alive. Her voice carried satisfaction that no business achievement had ever generated. They sat in comfortable silence, watching moonlight reflect off the Pacific while she mentally processed the transition between worlds, military and civilian, combat pilot and business executive, Captain Vasquez and Evangeline Chen. Her phone remained silent for the first time all day, corporate concerns temporarily set aside. Will there be more missions? David asked, understanding that today might not be an isolated event. Probably, she admitted. If American lives are at stake and my skills can make a difference, then yes, there will be more missions. Some things matter more than stock prices or board meetings. Her honesty carried the weight of someone who'd rediscovered purpose beyond personal success. As they prepared for bed, Evangeline's mind continued replaying tactical details from the mission while simultaneously planning corporate strategies for the following day. She was living between two worlds now, each demanding different skills, but both requiring absolute competence and commitment. Her dreams that night mixed boardroom presentations with surface-to-air missiles, quarterly reports with radio transmissions, and stock portfolios with the grateful face of Lieutenant Chen thanking her for bringing his people home alive. The woman who'd awakened that morning as purely a business executive had ended the day as something more complex, a bridge between civilian success and military service. The alarm clock's electronic chime pulled her back to civilian responsibilities at dawn, but her first conscious thought was of 40 people waking up alive, because she'd remembered how to dodge missiles and deliver ordnance with lethal precision. That satisfaction would sustain her through whatever corporate challenges the day might bring. Her morning routine included CNN's report on the previous day's military action in Nevada, carefully worded.